Danny Greenberg deposition. We're starting with pages 17 to 18. You've been a talent agent. Yes. Now you're familiar with the parties to this case, having read the complaint. In other words, who the plaintiff is and who the defendants are. Yes. And is it correct that at some point in time you represented Mr. Baldoni, a defendant in this case? Yes. How long did you represent Mr. Baldoni in your capacity as a talent agent? Around 5 years. I started representing him after he directed his first movie, roughly the second half of 2019. And are you familiar with an entity called Wayfarer? Yes. And Wayfarer Studios, is that or has that been a client of William Morris's, if you know? Yes. And would you be the talent agent who would have primarily responsible for the representation of Wayfarer? There was a team that represented Wayfarer. The primary representation of Wayfarer was through William Morris's independent division. I was involved in that representation, but my primary responsibility was representing Justin as a director and an actor. And again, approximately how many years or how long did you represent Mr. Baldoni in your capacity as an agent for William Morris? 5 years. Do you still represent Mr. Baldoni? No. Why not? We released Mr. Baldoni or Justin and Wayfarer right around December 22nd of 24. Okay, let me start with who is we, the agency. And there was some event that prompted Mr. Baldoni's dismissal as a client of William Morris. Gavrinsky, objection form. Danny, can you repeat the question? Garofalo, I will. I'll rephrase it. Did something happen that caused William Morris to drop Mr. Baldoni as a client? Yes. We jump down to pages 240 to 247. You see that you received this. You're in the CC line. Yeah, I do. Okay, and you see the subject is, it ends with as proposed Sony co-production term sheet. Got it. Yep. Do you see that? It looks like a producer arranged an agreement between Wayfarer and Sony. Okay, and the attachment to at least Exhibit 22 is proposal to Sony for it ends with us. Do you see that? Yes. Okay, and you recall receiving this document? No, I don't recall seeing it because I wasn't across this. My colleague, Deb McIntosh, was, but I was copied. Okay, and the opening email of Exhibit 22 states, Michael, on behalf of Wayfarer Studios, attached, please find a proposed term sheet for a co-production for It Ends With Us. Do you see that document? Yes. Yes. Do you understand that Schuler Moore, who it looks to be a lawyer, was sending this to Sony on behalf of Wayfarer? Is that right? Looks that way. Yeah. Okay, and if you could go to the next page. Oh, by the way, does Sony also go by Columbia? Yes. Okay, so if we see Columbia in this, can we understand that to be referring to Sony? Yes. Okay, so if we go to the page ending in 345 of Exhibit 22 in paragraph 6, do you see that? You see it says director, Justin Baldoni to direct and to have final cut rights, picture to be edited at a location of his choosing. Do you see that? Yes. What does final cut rights mean? Meaning that his cut of the movie would be the movie that would be released. So do you understand that Wayfarer in their proposal to Sony was proposing that Mr. Baldoni would have final cut rights? Yes. Okay, let's go to Exhibit 23, please. And I'm going to ask you to turn to the exact same paragraph, which is located on the page ending in Bates number 1997. Same paragraph, paragraph 6. Let me know when you're there. I'm there. Okay, and do you notice any changes in paragraph 6? Yes. Please explain. It says here, I'm assuming this is a response from Sony, that Sony does not customarily give directors a final cut, which is their response to Wayfarer asking for it. So specifically in paragraph 6, they put what appears to be brackets around to have final cut rights. Is that right? Yes. And they write in the last sentence, Columbia customarily doesn't give directors final cut. Do you understand that? Yes. Okay. Then let's go to the third, Exhibit 24. And we can start on the cover page, which ends in 367. And you see this is an email from, again, Mr. Moore saying, attach, please find a clean and red line proposal with our remaining minor requested changes. Do you see that? Yes. Okay, and so let's go to the next page again. Same drill. Document ends in 369, paragraph 6. Do you see that paragraph? Yes. And what do you notice about paragraph 6 in this version? It now has become basically a scenario of testing the film, and it's ultimately how that ultimately plays out will dictate which film will be released. So paragraph 6 removes the language that Mr. Baldoni was to have final cut rights. Is that right? Correct. And it says instead, final cut to be determined by bake-off. Yes. What is a bake-off? A bake-off is when a filmmaker comes to an agreement with a studio that if the movie tests at a certain level, that the studio would release that particular version of the movie if it achieves those numbers in a test screening scenario. And what happens if it doesn't achieve those levels? Then the studio would not contractually be obligated to release that cut of the film. And what would be released instead? They would ultimately come to some arrangement on ultimately what which cut should be released. And usually, at that point, the studio and the filmmaker and the editor would work on a cut that everyone feels good about. So a bake-off contemplates more than one cut. A bake-off contemplates really in this, well, let me took here, because I don't see it referring to any other cut in here. Well, how would it be a bake-off if it's only one cut? You know, the word bake-off really doesn't have, I'm not sure why it was used in this scenario because it's pretty clear. And the studio made it pretty clear, as did Wayfair, that once it hits the level in which it needed to hit, the studio would release Justin's cut. So I'm not sure why the word bake-off would be in this particular paragraph, because it doesn't reference anything other than perhaps Sony's cut. In other words, if his cut tested at a certain level and among the way of post-production, Sony came up with another cut of the movie as a backup in the event that Justin's cut didn't reach the level in which it needed to reach. They can then theoretically put this contract and use the Sony cut. That would be my only interpretation of why there would be a bake-off. And does this document contemplate any specificity regarding what you've called Sony's cut? Well, it says Columbia's changes. So that would be the implication in this, if you were trying to find some version of why the word bake-off is there. But my interpretation in reading this, it's pretty clear that it's simply a function of how Justin's cut would test and whether or not Sony would have to engage or not, because the movie didn't test at a certain level. You're not a lawyer, right? No. So are you saying that they would include the word bake-off even though they didn't really mean bake-off? No. Okay, and you see the last sentence refers to a cut incorporating Columbia's changes, right? Yep. Yes. And it doesn't say here who would be responsible for creating a cut incorporating Columbia's changes, does it? No, it does not. Okay, so it's of at least the date of this document, which let's see when that is, October 2022. Mr. Baldoni understood that he would not have final cut rights. Is that right? Garofalo, objection. Danny, correct. Gavinsky. Okay, let's go to an exhibit the opposing counsel showed you, exhibit number 8, which ends in WME 1214. Before we talk about this document, Mr. Greenberg, I just want to understand, were there only ever literally 2 versions of the film, like Justin's edit and then another version, and that was it, only 2? No. I mean, there's Justin. It's a living, breathing thing. And so Justin's edit of the film was a movie that he effectively finished, but not literally finished, but that he, for the most part, finished. I'm not sure whether or not it was locked yet, but that was the movie that was tested that I attended. And that was when I think this particular formula that you read in the last paragraph, in paragraph 6, applied to that test. How do you know it applied to that test? Because as far as I know, that was the last test of any of his films or any of his cuts that he was doing along the way. How many of Justin's cuts were tested? I don't recall how many. More than one, though? I know there was at least 2 tests, but it was the cut that he was progressing on, so it's in one version of the movie. It might have been farther along in the second test than it was in the first test, but it was the movie that he was working on post. Pages 271 to 272. He also referenced there might have been a couple of other things, like referencing the fact that production hired one of Justin's friends to be a doctor on the movie, in addition to Justin hiring his wife to be a doctor on a movie. There was, I don't recall anything else off the top of my head, but he felt to me on that call that he was trying to build a case against Justin. And I just didn't feel like anything rose to that occasion. And so I was trying to get, Ryan to give me more. And that's when he sort of put a stop to it. And the call pivoted to more about the print and the test that had just happened and his reaction to what he had just seen in this part of it. But you earlier testified that none of what he conveyed was sexual in nature. Is that right? Correct. Okay, do you recall Mr. Reynolds conveying to you that Colleen Hoover did not want to go to the premiere with Mr. Baldoni? I do remember that. What did he tell you? He asked if Justin was planning on going to the premiere, which surprised me. I said, of course he would. I think at that time, I reiterated to him that he found the material, developed the material, starred in the movie, directed the movie, and it seemed peculiar that he would even raise that issue. And his reaction to my reaction was that Colleen would not go to the premiere if Justin was there, or that he believed it's possible that Colleen would not go to the premiere if he was there. Did you speak to Miss Hoover regarding whether she would go to the premiere if Mr. Baldoni was there? No. Do you have any reason to doubt Mr. Reynolds' statement that Miss Hoover would not go to the premiere if Mr. Baldoni was there? I had no reason to doubt it. Do you recall Mr. Reynolds telling you that Miss Lively was actually trying to keep the cast together at that point to all go to the premiere together? I don't recall that part of the conversation. Garvinsky, okay, we can mark Exhibit 26, which will be WME _0000641. Before I leap into the next pages of the deposition, I just want to go to Blake Lively's complaint very briefly and read paragraph 26. What the public did not know was that this was the beginning of a multi-tiered plan that Mr. Baldoni and his team described as social manipulation designed to destroy Miss Lively's reputation. The plan was backed by virtually unlimited resources. Wayfarer's co-founder, co-chairman, and leading financier is multi-billionaire Steve Sarowitz, who divulged to a witness at the film's New York premiere on August 6, 2024, that he was prepared to spend $100 million to ruin the lives of Miss Lively and her family. So the witness at the film's New York premiere turns out to be Danny Greenberg. So just keep that in mind as we read his deposition. Pages 290 to 293. By refuting her claims about what happened on the set? Potentially. Again, I wasn't across the publicity campaign or anything along those lines. So this was basically a reflection of what I heard from the publicist as well as from Wayfarer. But your understanding is that they were preparing to go public to refute her claims about what happened to her on the set? Garofalo, objection. Danny, in the event they needed to defend themselves, as my understanding is that they were prepared to be truthful about what their experience was. Garvinsky, did you attend the premiere of It Ends With Us? Yes. Did you speak with Mr. Sarowitz at the premiere? I spoke with Mr. Sarowitz at the premiere party. The premiere party after the premiere? Correct. Where did that occur? At a hotel down the street. I forgot the name of it. And that was on August 6, 2024? That sounds right. What did you and Mr. Sarowitz discuss? He asked me how things were going with respect to publicity, with respect to the dynamic between Blake and Justin. Is this going to impact how the movie opens? My response to him was simply, the publicists are all over it. They're doing their job. They're working in conjunction with Blake's publicity team. And it seems to me like everything's going to be okay. At that point, it was Thursday before the movie opened. So there really wasn't much out there, if anything, about the dynamic between the two of them. So I was basically trying to just sort of calm him down. He was seemingly a bit defensive and nervous about what could happen. Again, he financed and built the studio. And so I was just basically alleviating his concerns, and he seemed to be okay. You used the words calm him down. How would you describe his demeanor? I don't know him very well. I've only met him and had a couple of Zooms with him over time. But he seems to be a relatively intense guy and a very straightforward, seemingly very honest guy, at least how he has communicated with me in the few times that we've communicated, and how that's very important to him. Kind of a spiritual, faithful guy. And so in that moment, it seemed to me that he was feeling like, and I've used the word earlier, a bit defensive, and that he needed to potentially protect himself. And so I was trying to assure him that he really had nothing to worry about and that everyone was doing their job. And the movie's going to open great and, it's going to be all right. Do you remember anything in particular that Mr. Sarowitz said? His exact words. For instance, well, did Mr. Sarowitz tell you that he was prepared to spend $100 million to ruin the lives of Miss Lively? No, he did not say that. Did he say anything similar to that? He said that, if I remember correctly, when I used the word publicist, his response to that is, that's fine, but I have lawyers. And in the event I need to, and this becomes a legal situation, I'm prepared to spare no expense. He didn't mention anything about money, and again, it's just sort of seemed in character, but my analysis was that it was purely defensive and that he had no intention of doing anything. It sounded like it was a little bit hubris and a little bit like, let me know if I need to do something, I will. Let me know if I need to engage or whatever. And so that was the last time I spoke to him. So it's your testimony that he did not reference spending $100 million. I don't recall. It's possible. I just don't recall him using that number or that figure. I do recall something to the effect of sparing no expense. So it's possible he did. I just don't recall that. And is Mr. Sarowitz a billionaire? I believe so. Garofalo, objection. Danny, I believe so from what I've read. Garvinsky. So what was your impression of when he said he would spare no expense? I didn't really have much of an impression. The final 2 pages provided to us, pages 298 to 299. Yes, that's the only thing that he mentioned to me. He used the word legal, and that was the only context in which he mentioned anything to me. Garvinsky, okay, I'm going to mark Exhibit 30. Exhibit 30 for identification. Leader, counsel, after this exhibit, can we take a 5-minute break? Garvinsky, yeah, I have just one more module after this, and then I probably will be done, but we can take a break. Okay, what I just handed you is WME 1319. Do you see that in front of you? I do. Do you recognize this? Yes, I do. Okay, do you see in the first paragraph you say, I think we're on a good path here? There's a truce between the publicists on both sides, and your last sentence in that paragraph is, I had to dial down the billionaire at the premiere who is ready for serious battle. Do you see that? Yes. Who is the billionaire that you're referring to here? Steve Sarowitz. And again, why did you use the term, strike that? Why did you use the term, well, strike that. Why did you use the term ready for serious battle? Well, it's just a continuation of what I've been saying the past 5 minutes, that he felt threatened, and battle refers to potentially having to get into a legal dispute. Garvinsky. Okay, let's take a quick break and then just think I just have 2 more minutes of questions. Garofalo, can we get a time check for both sides, please? Videographer, yes, let's go off the record first. Garofalo, sure. Videographer, we're going off the record. The time is 5:55 p.m. Recess taken. Videographer, we are back on the... If you like this deposition, please like it and hype it. And if you have not subscribed to me yet, please consider doing so. Thanks.